them.
Welcome to Do Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell Strayhorn and Jaquan Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Welcome back. I like that song. The opening song gets me happy every single time. Welcome back to another episode of Do Good Work Podcast. I'm your co-host, Terrell Strayhorn, joined by
Jaquan Johnson. Good to see you all again.
And listen, we are so excited about tonight's episode. We've got a dynamic show for you, but we also have a very special guest. And we're going to introduce him in just a moment. You all know how we do this. Every single week, we bring you real live, real talk conversations where we talk about the real issues that matter to all of us across the globe. And so tonight, we're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about historically Black colleges, and we may as well sprinkle in world peace, because I'm sure Dr. Comer has some ideas about that. We love conversations that are naturally flowing. So whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, go ahead, drop your name in the chat. Let us know where you're listening in from. If you haven't already, follow us on social media at Do Good Work.
All right. So you know how we always start using the first letter
of your last name.
How was your week?
My week's been, I was going to say amazing. That doesn't start with it. Amazing.
That's a new word.
My week has been special. It's been speedy, but I thought we were going to talk about, what I came prepared to say was superb. It's been an incredible week, very productive, knocked some things off the to-do list that had been there for some time. And listen, friends, you're going to be blown away by tonight's episode. But we are delighted because not only did Dr. Comer, President Comer, decide to be on the podcast, we've got a dynamic lineup of speakers coming up on the podcast. We're not going to tell everything right now, but if I were you, I would just go ahead and block Saturday at 7 p.m. Central. Just be here for Do Good Work Podcast. We're bringing you historians, professors, presidents, political officials. That's where I'll stop.
Yeah.
But it's been superb. How about you?
So for me, I would say joyful. But first of all, you had a lot of good S words.
I know. I use them all in one episode.
I struggle every week, but joyful. I mean, thrilled, happy to be in Texas. I'm in Texas. We did it yesterday in class. I was like, oh boy.
That's right. So now I got to say it. Oh boy.
But happy. We got a lot of work done these past couple of days, working on a mental health chapter. The webinar that's coming up on the 12th. Yep. A lot of good writing sessions. So joyful.
Yes. And the fun only. And by the way, is it tomorrow? Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Super Bowl. Y'all watch the Super Bowl tomorrow. I don't know who you're voting for. My team is not there, but that's okay. I will still vote for it. So we are delighted to have tonight a special guest on the podcast. You already see him on the screen. And yes, he woke up like that. Dr. Donald W. Comer is a native of Jackson, Tennessee. I did not know that, but a native of Jackson, Tennessee, has an impressive educational credentials, a stellar, we're going to talk about it, corporate career, community service background, and a deep commitment to student success. In addition to earning his doctorate in urban higher education from Jackson State University is in the house, in Jackson, Dr. Comer holds a Master of Business Administration, the one degree that I do want and still don't have, but he has an MBA. I'm gonna get one day. Holds a Master's in Business Administration, MBA, and a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. After 35 years at FedEx, Dr. Comer retired as, listen to this, Vice President of Decision Science and Analytics and Operations Analysis, where his duties really included collaborating with, wait for it, Tesla's research team to match the design of the Tesla electric semi-truck with FedEx operational needs. We're going to get into this, but Dr. Comer has a gift and a knack for matching technology and systems with operational needs. We're going to talk about it in terms of leadership. I'm getting too ahead of myself. Okay. Over his 35-year career with FedEx, Dr. Comer has consistently demonstrated his leadership and management skills in various business disciplines, including data analytics, marketing, finance, strategic planning, and project management. This part, I don't even have to look at the bio to say. Dr. Comer's commitment to student success is unwavering. It didn't start tonight at this episode or podcast. He's had it for years. He's been a tireless advocate, advisor, and mentor for students. I've witnessed it firsthand, dedicating significant personal time to serving on boards at 2 historically Black colleges and the National Black MBA Association. He has dedicated decades of his personal time to serving on the boards of HBCUs, including Lemoyne-Owen College, Go Magicians, and Memphis and Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tuscaloosa is definitely in the house. Shout out to those who are here. He is a Silver Life member of the NAACP, a member of the National Black MBA Association, and a life member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. You just made my nephew very happy. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show, Dr. Comer.
Thank you so very much. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for this opportunity just to talk about HBCUs.
Absolutely. Jaquin's going to kick us off.
I'm talking about what an impressive background. The whole time I was just like, one day mine will look the same. But, congratulations. You made it to the top. You've done the work to get there. So tell us more about your journey to leadership.
Oh, wow. I'm sitting somewhere that was never on my radar. So it's an exciting story to see how the breadcrumbs all fell into place. And I was fortunate enough to be able to pick them up to get me to this spot in time. I started my career at a small minority-owned accounting firm in Memphis, Tennessee. I'll tell that story because it was not the job I chose. It was not the job that I thought paid me what I thought I was worth when I came out. But it was the job that gave me the experience that I needed and the jumping off point to really begin to build on a career that has been through multiple decades. I worked at that accounting firm, and for 10 months, I applied to the job that I ultimately wanted, which was to work at the headquarters for Holiday Inns, which was in Memphis, Tennessee. At that time, the headquarters was there, and it had a flag from every country that it served out front, and it was just motivating to drive past that building. So after 10 months of applying for every month, because I had one more month of experience, I applied for that job again, and at the end of the 10th month, I got that job.
Wow!
It was there where I began to, really build a network of individuals who were invested in me. You talk about we didn't talk about mentors as much then, but I discovered some mentors, some who are still mentoring and pushing me today. One who I met a couple of weeks ago at Lane College, who was there just to check in on me and to offer her service there. And I'll talk a little bit more about her because many people will know her. And so I worked at Holiday Inns for about 4 years in accounting and finance roles, left there and went to work for International Paper during their transition from Midtown Manhattan to Memphis, Tennessee. So a small town country boy, got a chance to spend about 4 months living in Manhattan on the east side. So it was an amazing experience. That's when I realized the importance of fit. I worked for International Paper for a couple of years, but what I aspired for myself and their leadership just wasn't a good fit for me. An amazing company, it just wasn't fit for me. And once again, somebody who saw something in me that I hadn't quite realized for myself reached out and told me about an opportunity at FedEx. I joined FedEx and spent 35 years there with just all kinds of opportunities. You read about my bio and all the different disciplines that I was in, but probably the greatest part of that was the support they gave me in things that I cared about. The opportunities to volunteer. That's where I discovered the National Black MBA Association. I didn't discover it anywhere else because when they asked me to join, I said I didn't want to join. But FedEx needed me to do some recruiting at one of their events. And I had never seen so much Black excellence in one place. And so for the next, from 87, I mean, what was that? Yeah, it was 97 until last year, I had never missed a single Black MBA conference because that was my North Star, my barometer. No matter how many struggles and challenges I had in corporate America, when I went to Black MBA conference, those things I thought were personal and all affronts to who I was, everybody was struggling with it. And that's where I got the opportunities to build my brand, my opportunities to grow into leadership and to find a very nurturing environment. FedEx also gave me some unique opportunities to open doors within higher education and historically Black colleges. Terrell, we met at LeMoyne-Owen College. That's and right. I had gotten bold by then. LeMoyne-Owen was here in Memphis, FedEx was in Memphis, and I saw some opportunities. And I just picked up the phone and called Andrea Miller, who was president at that time, and said, I think I can do something for you. I think I can leverage what FedEx is doing to help LeMoyne-Owen. And she said, come on, let's talk about it. Wow. And we talked about it. And that's how my relationship with LeMoyne-Owen happened. And so just shortly, and so I was intentional about LeMoyne-Owen, but a few months after I had that conversation with Dr. Miller, I met Dr. Cynthia Warwick at a lunch. One of my fraternity brothers who had gone to Stillman invited me because he wanted me to meet the president. And once again, we started exchanging ideas, how I could help, how I could leverage the FedEx brand to help. And before I knew it, I was on that board too, as well. And so I was serving both of those boards at the same time. And I was wrapping up my tenure as chairman of the board at the National Black MBA Association. So I had the opportunity to see what excellence looked like, at the highest level in corporate America. And I also had the opportunity to see individuals who were aspiring to that. And one of my favorite books is a book that was written by Simon Sinek called The Infinite Game. And in that book, he talks about a just cause. And a just cause is, what is the world you envision and what work are you doing to make it become true? So over time, especially at this season in my life, my just cause is to accelerate the trajectory of people who look like me, such that they get to the place that I was at the time that I retired much earlier in their career and have opportunities to far exceed anything that I did in their career. I say all that, that's what I'm doing at my hometown, HBCU Lane College. Never envisioned when I was growing up and was admiring what I saw on Lane College campus that I'd have any opportunity to influence what the future of such a significant HBCU would be. So in a nutshell, that's my career, and that's how I got to this seat where I am today.
Wow. I love it. I mean, there's just so many gems that you point to. I mean, everyone who's listening, and feel free to drop things in the chat across the platforms, we'll see them. But I'm hearing the power of mentorship. Well, one, I'm hearing that there's just honest humility in your story, right? Is that people often look at a sitting college president and think they got there on their own, or what do I need to do? And your story points out that, one, there are people who assisted you along the way, mentors, opportunities that you couldn't even imagine that, and I'll stop on this one. But opportunities that you seized as well. So sometimes you've got to, things don't change until you change. You don't get it until you get up and go after it. And so picking up the phone and, as you said, calling Dr. Miller, hopefully she's listening. I did drop her the flyer. So Dr. Miller, if you're there, hey, all right. So picking up the phone and calling up people and saying, I believe that I can add value. And I love what you said, to accelerate what you're doing. That's so selfless. It's not about, I have an idea that I wanted, to do at LeMoyne. I think there's some ways that I can really help support the vision and the work that you're carrying out there. And so kudos to you for that vision and for that perspective.
Well, first of all, I got to say, because I will be scrutinized if I don't, is that I have family in Jackson, Tennessee. And so you definitely have fans out there. They're right texting me saying, let them know that we're repping. So, but my thing is that I want to know is, you grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, and now you work at an HBCU in that area. How does that feel?
It's humbling. It definitely is. Small towns. lots of family there. And over my career, the most difficult times for me to show up is when somebody I know and somebody I'm close to is sitting in the audience. I can walk out in front of a crowd of people and and be perfectly comfortable. But the pressure is on when I have to perform in front of family and close friends. So because it's such a small town and because my family has been rooted there forever, uh, I feel like there's so much of what I do that is not just for me, but it's for my family and for my students. So it's humbling every single day. And and there's some things I have to be reminded. Sometimes I have to remind myself, and there are affirmations that I do. Uh, and I'll share this. When I was working on my dissertation for my PhD, I wrote about resilience, and I remember picking up the phone and calling Dr. Strayhorn and say, "Hey, you wrote about this." And one of the books that I discovered, and I want to take some liberties here, because when I went into this role, uh, this book is Resilience by Eric Grittens, and there's an excerpt that I read almost every time I get in front of somebody, because I am certain I'm going to mess up in this role. And so I know that I'm going to need a little grace. And if you'll give me just this opportunity, because this is what I say to myself every time I'm feeling a little bit off center. It's you are human, you are imperfect. You don't begin with perfectly pure motives. If you're like most of us, your motives are probably almost embarrassing next to the excellence you want to reach. Your task is not to begin in a noble place, but to end up in one. As long as we have enough wonder and humility to start the journey and to correct ourselves when we go wrong, our motives don't have to be pure. Finding better, more selfless, more meaningful reasons for what we do is exactly what we set out to do. You don't need to be a golden boy. You don't need to be a hero. You don't need to pretend to yourself or to anyone that you're showing up with perfect motives. If you wait until you and to begin when you mastered your intentions, you will never begin. Selfish, silly, vain desires can create real growth when you subject them to discipline. Accept that you are imperfect and always will be. Your quest is not to perfect yourself, but to better your imperfect self. Know this: anyone who does anything worthy, anything noble, anything meaningful will have critics. You are a man who does things that are worthy, noble, and meaningful. You will have critics. Some people try to live a life without criticism by shrinking themselves. They try to make themselves invisible. You know what happens then? It's not just that you diminish themselves, fail to live their best lives and squander their time. All of it happens, of course, but you know what else happens? People criticize them for being invisible. I choose not to be invisible.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I mean, that's a mantra that everybody needs to say. I mean, it speaks to the heart of things. We're so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
We agonize over getting things right. And sometimes we do it so much that we never start. And so something we've even learned in our work is just open the screen, start writing, get it started, outline something. Go ahead and send out the invite to the guests for the show. Don't overthink, will they say yes? Will they say, is this the right time? Is this, sometimes. So to everyone who's listening, part of what you're sharing, and I love that about your just cause, what we call good work, is, taking action and not being afraid, here we go, to fail.
Yeah.
Fail.
We all need to fail forward.
Fail forward is what Dr. Lucas says. Yeah, fail forward and fail fast. This is my president at Virginia Union. He's like, look, fail fast. Stop taking so long to fail. I mean, learn from it, but when you fail forward. Did you learn something? You're a little better, and you try again. Thank you for sharing that with this. So let's keep going. Someone just put in here, I'll put it on the screen. Totally awesome. They appreciate it. Thanks, Dr. Comer. So listen, you are the president at the Lane College. Mm-hmm. Lane College is one of the nation's leading HBCUs. And indeed, HBCUs play a major role in society, not just in the Black community, although that's important, but in society. So what are your thoughts about the importance of HBCUs today, and especially some of the good work you and your team are doing at Lane?
Yeah, most of us know the statistics around HBCUs. We know there's roughly 101 of them. We know that we make up about 3% of institutions of higher learning, but we graduate about 17% of the college students. Many of them are first generation college students. And so all of that is important. And you know, I graduated from college in '82, and it's interesting that here in 2025, all those statistics are still the same. So we've got to continue to lean in, and it's something about that dynamic, and especially in this era of political change, it's going to continue to be that way for a while. HBCUs tend to be high transfer in institutions. And high transfer in institutions mean that not all of us can find a place of comfort in a PWI. So we find ourselves back into HBCUs. The other thing that I always want to remind, because we are high transfer in institutions, our graduation rates don't always reflect our impact. Graduation rates are based on cohorts, and cohorts are based on where you start. If you start somewhere other than your HBCU is not getting credit for the fact that you graduated for them. So when you look at a 21% graduation rate, it could be, you know, it could be something significantly better. I had my team to do that analysis recently. Our graduation rate in 6 years is about 21%. But when you adjust for the number of transfers in, it takes it to about 35%. So that's a significant impact for us as an HBCU, and it speaks to the role that we play to provide a soft landing for those of us who have not been as successful in other places. But when they make that soft landing, doesn't mean that they don't still have to do hard work, that they don't still have to grind to get to the end. And I always correct individuals who talk about persistence, because persistence just means that I pushed hard and got on the other side, whereas resilience means I pushed hard, but I integrated that learning, and it helped me to be a stronger and better person when I come out on the other side. Our students are resilient. I love, the best part of my day on Lane College is when I interact with a student. Our students are bright. Our students are energetic. Our students forgive us for a myriad of sins when they come to these institutions with an abundance of deferred maintenance, with a deficit in resources. They forgive us, and they work with us to make sure that they have transformation, liberation, and we all get to celebrate on the other side.
Yeah, love that. You know, you're pointing to some really important stats about HBCUs. So 101 institutions that represent just 3% of the 4,300 colleges and universities in the United States. But these 101, as we say, national treasures, pack way above their weight class in terms of the students that they serve and that they enroll. I mean, you got 3% of institutions educating over 300,000 students collectively. Right. You know, it's at HBCUs where students who look like us not only get a high quality education, but can learn free from the threat of racism, you know, judgment, as our work now, belonging, where they can feel a true sense of belonging. Because you're walking, I mean, like you said earlier in your career, you see Black excellence on full display at HBCUs. Right. It is in the faculty. It's in your students at Lane have Mr. GQ himself as their president, so they get style and fashion and brains. It's actually sort of surreal if you've never experienced it. I remember my first time at Lemoyne, and just looking across the campus and knowing that Martin Luther King was on this campus, right? That he spent time here, that I'm a member of the Church of God in Christ, and one of our presiding bishops is a graduate of Lemoyne-Owen College. And so all of that was just that history that you get, and it's part of everyday life, is so real. So as you've talked about it, it's not just that HBCUs are doing important lessons, because here's the thing we also say about these things. Institutions can't do anything on their own because they're just buildings. Right. What makes Lane magic, and you nailed it already, it's the people who are there. It's the students. No doubt it's the alumni who are already hitting up the chat. It's you, it's your team, it's the faculty, it's the community members who come. And so, you bring leadership to an institution that's historic. And so much of that has to benefit from the hills and mountains you've overcome, both at FedEx and other kinds of places. So let's talk about that for a minute. This is a two-part kind of question. You've done so much in your career. I mean, Tesla, you worked with Tesla. I mean, I'll say the story because I remember you one day called me, and we had a CPI grant, a career pathways grant at Lemoyne. And we're trying to make sure that our students were being prepared for demanding, rewarding, high-paying careers. And we all know how that works. You get a good education, but nowadays you need more than that. Right. You need a great internship, and probably a couple of them. You need experiential learning. That's your experience. That's his term. Experiential learning, right? Hands-on. And so then the question becomes, who are the partners for the institution, in this case, an HBCU, to do so? And then Trustee Comer partnered with us very quickly in academic affairs and was able to bring over your team and put on a session for our students where they could learn about interviews and interviewing skills and resume writing and competing for internships. And I'm knowing you're bringing the same sort of experience. So talk to us a little bit about that, what you're doing at Lane. So first, in your career, you've done so much. What are some of those gems, the lessons that you've learned in your climb to the presidency? And then two, now that you are a president, what's been most surprising or rewarding?
Well, one of the things I tell people every day, that I haven't experienced anything at Lane College yet that I didn't experience at FedEx. The biggest difference was the resources to address it head on. We're always at a deficit for resources. So the things that I saw at FedEx when I ran into them, I'd write up a business case and I'd push it up, and we could self-fund. It's like being self-insured when you go into the insurance agency. We could write a business case, we could apply for a grant, but we don't have that same sort of control over the flow of resources at an HBCU. So that's been probably the biggest challenge. Probably the second one is, I keep going back to the students. With all of the challenges, I've run into students who are just so happy to be there. The spirit of being a Laneite is alive and well at 545 Lane Avenue. The community love, the alumni who are dyed in the wool with respect to how they love, nurture, and care for Lane College. That is so important. I've got an amazing board. And right now I'm working with Clark Atlanta's ELI, and I'm teaching board governance as part of that program that they do there. So I feel fortunate, one, to have been on the board so I can see both sides of it, and two, to be able to be a two-sided lecturer to those who aspire to leadership roles in higher education. So that's been phenomenal. Shout out to Phyllis Dawkins and the work that she does over at Clark Atlanta to prepare the next generation of leaders within higher education. That's an amazing, amazing program for readiness. One of the things that I learned at FedEx that I think I would like to see more of in higher education is succession planning, because all too often leaders within higher education spend some amazing terms there. And when they leave, it's finding center again takes much too long. So part of the reasons why we might stumble sometime is because we have those stops and starts within higher education because of an opportunity to spend more energy around succession planning.
Yeah.
I think that's a critical thing, and that's the gap that I see.
Mhm.
The other thing is when there's a change in leadership, it's almost like when the rumor starts that there's going to be a change in leadership, everybody kind of puts on pause, and then when leadership gets there, they're still on pause until they figure out whether or not their job's going to be secure. So those puts and stops, you know, we should all be doing good work. You know, if you're worried about your job and you put yourself on pause, guess what's going to happen? It's self-fulfilling because you're walking in and the president's new and the president's trying to get their footing. They're going to be relying on the people that have been doing the work, the people that have been doing good work to help them to find an opportunity to continue to accelerate what's been going on in the institution. So I've been fortunate. I've not made any significant leadership changes over time because I've got good people.
Mhm.
And one thing I think I'm good at, I'm clear about expectations, and I have a firm belief that if you're clear about expectations, that people want to do good work. And when they know how it is defined and what it looks like, they're shooting for that North Star. And so shout out to all the administration and staff at Lane College for the amazing work that they do every day to make Lane all that it is and what it means to the community, to Jackson, and to United States and the world.
Yeah. Wow. I have a follow-up, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you mentioned the board, and you know, there's so much that's been written and we've witnessed, not just at HBCUs, at PWIs, but I think that reporters have a particular attraction to writing about conflicts and rifts and challenges that emerge at HBCUs between presidents and boards. So given your experience both as a board member, as a sitting president, any advice? I mean, how important is that relationship, and any advice about how to really strengthen it?
It's hard to be successful anywhere in any job if you and your boss are not on the same page.
Mm.
So you've got to be intentional about leaning in and making sure that you're working and you're setting standards that allow you to work together. When I took this job, one of the first conversations I had with the board was, you own all policies and you own the strategic plan. You know, that doesn't mean that they do the work. You know, me and my team are accountable for developing the policies and the strategic plan, but it really belongs to the board, and the board has to give appropriate levels of attention to understand it, to approve it, and then to hold me and my team accountable for compliance with the policies. Compliance with the policies and the harmony that comes from a clear understanding of the policies on both sides makes board and administrative relationships much more comfortable. So, like I say, I'm very comfortable with my board and the support. I feel like I have the authority to do my job. And I want to be as transparent as they want me to be about the work. And so far it's worked. I share what they need. I share everything that's critical. If something happens in any one of the disciplines, if it's with the academic affairs area, I pick up and call the chair of the academic affairs committee first, and then I call the board chair second to make sure that there is alignment there, getting wise counsel to make sure that there may be some things that I'm not aware of that the board's working on, so that we stay aligned. That's the best way to keep those relationships strong and healthy.
That's awesome.
So Lane clearly has their house in order.
Yes.
You also
like to think so.
you mentioned that limited resources is another force that kind of impacts HBCUs, but that doesn't stop us from doing our work, which is the students, right? You mentioned, we always do good work to give students these academic and social experiences that change lives, and for some it saves lives, which is why we have happy alumni. So you talked about it a little bit, but tell us some more about your students, who they are, what they are doing, and where they're headed.
Well, I'll start out. Our students come from all across the country. So we're not a regional school with respect to where our students come from. Secondly, I'm amazed at how many of our students are second and third and fourth generation Laneites, meaning that their parents did that. I've seen other schools where that's not really the case. You know, you struggle at an HBCU, and quite often, once you get over the struggle and you're successful, we say we want something better for our children, so we send them somewhere else. We have a lot of successful alumni who still choose to send their students back to Lane College because they believe in the institution and the quality of the education that happens at a Lane College. So that was an aha moment for me, how many of them were generational Laneites. And so that was amazing to me. They are extremely talented students. We have I would put up our science department against any HBCU. Our division chair, Dr. Melody Van Stry, is amazing. You know, her innovative approach to how she teaches, her grant writing skills. You know, she punches way above her weight class in terms of how she contributes to the funding for her department. We have great faculty, but she sets the standard in that regard with respect to that. I am really looking for a differential advantage for Lane College, and I think that can be in our mass communications department. We have I brought some people in that I knew were out of Memphis that were in that space to assess our equipment and what we can do. We have the best of equipment. What we're looking for is to continue to build out a world-class faculty so that we can give that. Our students, they do a lot of stuff that in terms of live streaming. All of our events that you see that are live streamed from our campus, they're done by students. We don't outsource that. Our students do that. So they're talented in that regard. Our athletes, you know, our girls are like number 2 in our conference in terms of basketball. We just hired a new coach. I watched some of your previous episodes, and when you say, how do you describe how you're feeling today with your last name? Well, mine was going to be C, and it was going to be celebration. This week was a week of celebration. We brought in a brand new football coach, and we had a press conference, and the energy in there was amazing, especially going through a transition that the students, the faculty, the community was excited to see that transition, not because the last one was bad or anything, but because they wanted to support and they were looking forward, not through the rearview mirror, but through the windshield, because that's a bigger, brighter view than anything that can happen. And I had not one, but 3 major opportunities to knock on my door, not things that I went and found. They came to Lane College because they thought that we could be a good partner for the future of Jackson and for the future of the businesses that they were in. So my C for today was celebration, describing my week.
Thank you. Thanks for playing that game with us. He asked, he was like, should I ask to give him the letter of, we didn't tell you that in the email. So I was like, no more pressure on him, please. But thank you. So we got a celebration. It's a great story. I mean, it's what students want, you know, to know that. And we've had this conversation when we decided to launch the podcast. Where do you learn how to podcast? You ought to learn in college. There ought to be courses in it. There should be, and it doesn't have to be a 3-credit course. It could be a 3-credit course. It could be some sort of certificate or stackable credential. There could be a set of experiences. I mean, if we don't do it, Coursera, no shade to them, shout out to Coursera, but you know, other providers online will do it. But the beauty of it is you will always have the Lane brand for your students. And it does exactly what you said. I think it sets them up with a differential advantage. They enter into a high-tech world with these skills already in place.
Well, we have a podcast studio, and we invite you to come do an episode from Lane College.
We're on the way.
Okay, we're on the way. Say less. Consider that done. Okay, you heard it here first, folks. This is going live everywhere. That's awesome. Thank you, President Comer, for that. So let's talk for a little bit about your future. So let's look to the future of both Lane and maybe also higher ed. And if you had a crystal ball and could look into it, what's next for Lane? And what challenges and opportunities lie ahead, both for Lane College, but also maybe even broadening the aperture a bit for higher ed and HBCUs?
You know, it's interesting that you asked me that question. When I've settled on 3 pillars that I'm leaning into to try to build out the future for Lane. And I arrived at those not just based on what I think Lane can accomplish, but I think that they are fundamental to higher education. So the first one is around community engagement. Carnegie makes a designation of institutions. One of them is a community engagement institution. I deeply aspire to have Lane College to earn a Carnegie designation as a community engagement, because, you know, we talk about town-gown relationships and all the research that has been done around the success of the city and the success of the institution go hand in hand. And if you fail to nurture and take care of that relationship and then give evidence of that, you put the institution at rest. So the first one is around community engagement. The second one is, we talked a little bit about arriving at a differential advantage. There was a book that was called The Myth of Excellence, and that I read years ago in corporate America. It says that you have to choose one thing to differentiate and dominate on, and then be competitive with everything else. And I think that we're going to try and try our hand at being differentiated around our mass communications. When you come and you see where we started with and I'm holding you to that, our podcast lab and what we've done to try to set ourselves up for success there, the relationships we're building with other institutions to be able to do that. We're not going to forget, you know, I told you we have a world-class science department. We started in education and religion. We're not going to forget anything that is significant to a holistic college experience, because not everybody's going to want to be in that space. But we have to choose something. So when you ask me what is Lane good at, I'm going to be able to tell you exactly what we're good at. And then I'm going to tell you we're great there, but we're more than good than everything else. Yeah. So that's my differential advantage. Then academic excellence. None of this is any good if we don't focus in on having faculty that can teach in ways that have not been taught before, that meet our students where they are. We're going to focus in on academic excellence. And I love it when you said experiential learning, because that's it right there. We're going to do some project-based learning. We're going to teach both theory and practice. The two have to go together, because the first time a student sees the real can't be when they step onto their job, because they're going to be 3, 4, 5 steps behind. We're going to have internships, co-ops, project-based learning, and most importantly, some of the problems that we're trying to solve on the campus, we're going to ask our students to be part of those project teams and help us to think through and then do the work to move the college forward. Then the next one is financial vitality. We all need that. That means that we're going to get beyond just sustaining to a place where we can be positioned to weather challenges and to take advantage of opportunities. And then the last one, and this is a near-term objective, is to have strategic enrollment. Right now, I'm kicking the tires. I'm trying to make sure that all the metrics that need to move appropriately as I bring another student on move, so that I don't that I'm unable to scale. You know, when you talk in businesses, scale is important. Yeah. So many small businesses fail because they became wildly successful and did not plan to scale with it. Lane's going to be wildly successful. Our enrollment is going to grow, but it's going to grow smartly and it's going to grow strategically.
I love that. I was pointing to him because his before getting into more research kind of work, he was an enrollment counselor and worked in enrollment. And so we've often talked on this show about enrollment is not just go grab a student and get them on your campus. It really is about managing those strategic enrollments. Like, how does what we offer line up with what they're looking for? Right. And then when we get them, do we have a long-term sort of vision for how we'll keep them and support them along the way?
That's good.
Stealing your jam.
You are. So, you know, I was an enrollment counselor before I kind of got more into writing and research. And we have many people on the live show right now, listening in, who are high school students. Some of these are parents who have students who will go to college, someday. We also may have some people in the audience who are out of college and looking to transfer somewhere, and it may be Lane. So could you tell us a little bit about what's the student experience at Lane College?
Yeah, Lane College, our year starts early. Our classes start August 1. So that's a little bit ahead of that. But the good thing is when you go home for Thanksgiving, you don't come back until after the new year. So you have an extended break. But over that break, we offer what we call a December semester. And I love what we do there because it allows students to balance overloads, because you can take a couple of classes there to avoid having to do an overload if you're a senior and you're trying to get out. If you are an athlete and you had a tough semester, you can take classes there to get yourself back on track for the rest of the year. And then it just gives students and Terrell, my research was on housing insecure. It also allows those students who don't have a place to call home over the break to have a place to be and to not have to celebrate holidays alone. So it's a multi-purpose situation that really deals with it. And that early break also minimizes the financial impact on students who would have to go home for Thanksgiving, come back, and then that. So I won't take credit for it. It was very smartly done before I got there. And we were successful this year because we allowed our students to go for free over that December semester. We leveraged grants and other opportunities. It was totally online, so we knew what the cost. We just needed to cover the cost over that time, and it was a unique opportunity for us to provide that to our students. And we grew from 28 the previous year to over 200 students enrolled in that online program. So that was an amazing opportunity for us. So that's kind of the experience. We have chapel on Wednesdays. And then right after chapel, we serve chapel chicken. If you want the best experience of Lane College in terms of what an HBC, come on Wednesday for chapel and then go over to the dining hall right after that. There's stepping, there's strolling. You see the true experience during that period of time. It's a highly residential campus. I would say roughly 90% of the students who attend Lane College live on the campus. So there's always something going on. We have 10 sports. We're part of the SIAC. We're competitive everywhere we are. We have a football team. A lot of small HBCUs don't have football teams. So we have a football team, and we have a band, we have a choir. All of our stuff is good. It's an exciting, energetic campus. We have all the challenges, but we certainly have all the amazing amenities that are characteristic of a thriving HBCU.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's one thing out of all of that, I have to know: are you the lead singer at Chapel?
No, sir. No, sir.
Lead singer.
Professor Rainey Bowe is an amazing director of Chapel, and she sang during the holidays at the Jackson Symphony to a standing ovation because she is so amazing. And one of the other things I'm celebrating is we're just bringing on. She told me I was calling it an accompanist. She says it's really a collaborator. I'm behind in terminology, so so she pulls us forward. She doesn't let us stay with old terms. She's trying to convince us and lead us down this path where we're going to become a Steinway school. So we're gonna work with those organizations. So if you know anybody who loves music and wants to invest and help us to achieve the status of becoming a Steinway school. She just did a concert, she and one of our pianists who teaches piano as part of a Steinway series. So we do a lot of stuff. We're not that small town country school that you might think that we are because we're in Jackson, Tennessee. We are progressive.
Yeah,
we are pushing the envelope everywhere that we can. And I'm fortunate that we have alumni and friends who want to see us be successful.
Yeah. Well, you've described a student experience that seems quite dynamic and vibrant and high energy. So, you were speaking to Quinn to the students who might be aspiring to college. Certainly you should think of Lane College, but to those who work in higher ed, those who are in counselors and admissions reps, talk about Lane. Reach out to President Comer and his team. I'm sure they're happy to, give you information about the institution, but I'm also thinking that experience that you describe, which first of all, we need to go on a Wednesday to do the podcast. We got to go to chapel, get some chicken.
Absolutely.
I'm vegan, but we get some chicken that day. And then we're going to go and we're going to do the podcast.
I'll have your piece of chicken.
Okay, you can have my piece of chicken. But to those of you who are listening, you also spoke to the fact that if there are folks out here, and we have a pretty broad audience, I mean, people who work in business in corporate America, and even investors, you heard President Comer here, what he's trying to do. If there are ways that you can support, I mean, he has made his career helping others and accelerating their vision. So here it is. We want to use Do Good Work podcast to say, if you know of a way that you can help accelerate the work that he's doing at Lane, please follow up with us, reach out. We'll connect you to President Comer. We're getting close to time and we don't want to run out of time. So before we wrap up here, we typically spend the final sort of moment with giving the floor to you. The final word is all yours. And you've talked about your dissertation. You've talked about your research. You've talked about your journey, your leadership journey, and you brighten up like most presidents do when you talk about the people, your students and the faculty who you get to work with, even your board and the relationship that you've managed there. So what would you say to those who are listening, who either want to support you in your vision for Lane, or, and there are many of these, people who aspire to be like you? And if I can modify the question we sent to you a little earlier, I'm talking about folks who look like us.
Right.
Quite frankly, young, and I don't mean by age, I mean people who just have an aspiration, a desire to one day be a college president. And they have no idea how to get there, the kinds of experiences that they might be trying to acquire, what matters, what doesn't matter. So the floor is all yours. What would you say to those who are listening in terms of how they can support you in your vision, and then those who aspire to be like you, a college president someday?
So, I'll say it like this. It's just do good work. So the name of what you're saying is exactly right, because I never had an aspiration to be a college president. I just knew where I wanted to make impact. And I knew what I didn't know the term just cause until I really read The Infinite Game, but I knew what my just cause was. And I've been trying to shape that, through in my latter years at FedEx. I was spending time leveraging that platform to make headway toward where I wanted to be. Shout out to Jackson State. One of my biggest regrets in my career was I never went to an HBCU. And I went back to school at 61 to get my PhD. And Jackson State was, of all my degrees, the sweetest one is from my PhD. Wow. At Jackson State. The experience was amazing. I just love everything about it. So shout out to HBCUs in general because of that. The other thing is that I don't want anybody to make a donation to Lane College for any other reason than it's a smart investment. Every conversation I have about Lane is not, there are lots of heartstring stories I can tell you about Lane. 50% of our students can contribute nothing toward their education. But even those students who can contribute nothing come out on the other side, come through the fire, more resilient, and they make amazing contributions to the world. So I want you to make an investment. We want to be a Steinway institution. If you are a music buff and you know how significant it would be to expose our students to that caliber of instrument as they hone their craft, we want you to invest in that. If you are an anchor on TV, if you are behind the camera doing things, and you know how significant it is to have experience when you walk in the door, and you talked earlier about the difference between students of color and students. The difference is experience and exposure. We want to give them some experience and exposure. And most of the time we give tuition dollars, but the tuition dollars only pay for the theoretical side of it. We need to then pay for opportunities for them to go out and get some practical experience. So invest in them that way. So don't look at support for your HBCU as your social responsibility. It is an investment that's going to make life better for, if not for you, for future generations. So invest in your future, invest in our students, and make life better, not just for Lane, but for the world.
I could right. I could listen to this all day. President Comer, Trustee Comer, Dr. Comer, thank you very much for your time, for your generosity, both with your leadership and your scholarship, but most importantly, just thank you for giving us a real natural conversation about leadership, lessons, life, and Lane. And we are indebted. We will certainly be following up with you about coming to Lane. But before we close out, we're here at 4 minutes. So, friend, what you taking from the episode? I know you're going to scream and holler when we stop the live, but right now.
For now, I won't be dramatic right now. But no, I really listen. The biggest thing that I took away from this was it's very simple. Just do good work.
Just do good work.
The secret sauce to being a president, to climbing the ranks in any industry, is just to do good work and be nice to people. Y'all out here always being hateful.
There, you got to be nice. What's your shirt say? Do good work. Just saying. Just saying. No, I mean, I take so much from what you shared about. Well, the other is I've talked about some of it, but the one thing I haven't said that you naturally demonstrate is that you read. You've called out books. And so I say to my doc students all the time, I'm like, listen, you can't go nowhere with scholarship and research if you don't read. You can't write until you read, and you can't skim. You got to read the whole thing. And so thank you for also sharing your bibliography with us and some of the things that not only inform your leadership, but just lessons for life. I mean, this has been incredible. So listen, friends, we are at time. And so we want to make sure that you, if you have not already, follow us at Do Good Work on all social media platforms. We are excited. Next week, we will have with us Dr. Elwood Watson. Absolutely. From Eastern Tennessee. No, is it East Tennessee?
East Tennessee.
East Tennessee State University. He's a professor and a historian, and we're gonna talk about Black history. And Professor Watson's going to be with us. And the following week, we're going to have Dr. Hassan Jeffries, who is the brother of Dr. Hakeem Jeffries, who's in Senate. But we'll have Dr. Jeffries with us. He's a professor at The Ohio State University, good colleague and friend. He's also your fraternity brother. But and he's going to come and he's going to talk to us, take us even further down the road, talking about Black History Month. We got a great lineup. And then, as if that's not enough, because Dr. Comer said yes, we also have President Kevin James coming to the show from Morris Brown College. We want to get all 101 of these HBCU presidents, build a platform, let people hear your voice and know you. So if you have not already, not only follow Do Good Work, go follow The Lane College on everything social media, and we will see you pretty soon, President Comer, on Wednesday. Chapel and chicken. Chapel and chicken. Here we go. Let's see. I didn't have this queued up. Boom.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media at Do Good Work on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.